So thanks a lot for the introduction, even though you probably said very bad things about me.
No, they won't.
So in this talk, we will clearly talk about Debian, and I go in details about what is Debian and why it has important differences from the other distribution which exist on the market. And then, in case you are interested, we go into something a bit more in depth about some specific aspects of Debian, like the commitments of Debian, like how we make decisions, and like some of our processes. Then I talk a bit about derivatives, as Debian is an operating system which is a basis for many other operating systems called derivative distribution. And then I give you some hints if in case you want to contribute to Debian on how to do that. So first of all, just a step back, the basics. So the notion of a distribution. We often use the term distribution without always understanding what it's about. So very briefly, a distribution is a kind of an intermediate actor between the people who actually make a software, what we call the upstream developers, and the final users. So in between people who make and write software and the actual users, we have, in the world of free software, we have distributions. So distribution prepare specific version of upstream software and pack them up in Unity we call packages, and then add some additional applications, which usually are package managers, to manage the packages which are installed on your system, and then take care that all the software which are shipped as part of a specific distribution work well together. So the distribution does do this kind of integration work, which actually is meant to make easy to install, remove, and upgrade software on your machines. This is the role of distributions, and Debian is one of those distributions. In fact, Debian is one of the oldest distributions which still exist today, and this is the message which in August 1993, Ian Murdoch sent to a newsgroup. That was the way we used to communicate back then. Sent to a newsgroup to announce the imminent completion of the Debian Linux release. So it was 1993, like 17 years, almost 18 years ago, and Ian Murdoch was ready to announce that Debian was complete. So in some sense it was wrong, because we are 18 later, Debian is not complete and will never be. But still, in this message, which you can find on the web, which you can still find on the web, there are a couple of very important insights about why Debian exists. So back then, Ian wanted to make GNU Linux competitive with commercial operating systems. So 18 years ago was way more difficult to imagine a competition between free software or a commercial operating system, but still that was one of the goals for the creation of Debian. He wanted to make Debian easy to install, and once more the notion of being easy to install back then is not exactly the same as what we have today. So back then it was easy to install for hardcore hackers, and today easy to install means easy to install for everyone, including my grandmother. So, and then he wanted something which was kind of innovative for you. Another aspect which was really innovative, he wanted to make the project created openly in the spirit of GNU. That meant to create it in a collaborative manner, having a community of people who was working on Debian, and in particular a community of software experts. So the idea was that if you are an expert of a specific kind of software, like desktop applications, scientific computing, then you will contribute to the creation of Debian with your expertise, not only in packaging, but in a specific field of software. And so that was the idea. And initially the project was also free software supported by the Free Software Foundation for quite a while. So that is how Debian was born. So since then, many things evolved and changed quite a bit. So Debian released like 15 times. So with the philosophy release, which we'll get back to that later, which is we release when it's ready. So the last release happened actually a month ago, which is called Debian Squeeze. So the name of the release are all inspired by Toy Story characters. And if you go and look again at the movie Toy Story 1, you can notice that on the chin of Buzz Lightyear there is a small sphere. So I don't know if it is true or not, but the story goes that the sphere is there because one of the former Debian project leaders, whose parents used to work at Pixar when they made Toy Story, and they used Debian on all the computers used to make the movie, and so they added as a kind of a thank, as a gift, this sphere. I have no idea whether the story is true or not, but it's a nice story. So, and then Debian is a project with a specific structure of governance, and we'll get back to that a bit later on, and then a lot of Debian project leaders up until me. And this brings me to the story of my involvement with Debian. So I am a user of Debian since 1998. I discovered it at university when I was a second year undergraduate student in computer science. I became a Debian developer in March 2001, simply because I needed some libraries which were not in Debian, and I decided to put it there myself. And then I've been a package maintainer of several different types of packages. In particular, I worked a lot in the context of a programming language called Objective-Camel. I maintain a lot of libraries of this language. I work on XML-related packages, on software for doing mathematics. I worked a bit on Python libraries. I maintain the Vim editor. So I've done quite a bit of package maintenance. And then I work in the quality assurance team, which is the Debian team who cares about the quality of the package as a whole in the archive. And I maintain the package tracking system, which is a tool we use to monitor the state of packages. And then I've been a BPL candidate in 2009, and since 2010 I'm the current Debian project leader. So this is kind of my story with Debian, but let's get back to Debian itself. So we use often the term Debian to refer to this thing, but actually Debian is several things at once. So in particular, it's three. I like to present it as three aspects which are interlinked. So an operating system, so let's say the Debian technology, a project, and a community. So briefly, I go through all of them. So let's start with the operating system. So one of the features of the operating system, because in my opinion, being free, as in freedom is a feature of the software you use, is that all the software you find in Debian is actually free software. And it's free software according to the Debian free software guidelines, which I will detail later on. So this is the first feature of Debian. It's a completely free operating system for your computer. And then it's a system which is very versatile, very versatile. So in particular, it has been ported to a lot of architecture. So with Debian Squeeze, the last release, you have a dozen different architectures you can run Debian on, from handheld to embedded system to supercomputing facilities. And in particular, starting with Debian Squeeze, you also have Debian ports which run on a kernel different than the Linux kernel. So in particular, you can run Squeeze on x86 hardware using the kernel, which is part of the FreeBSD project, and all the rest of Debian packages built on top of this kernel. So, and then it has a lot of technical features, like it's known for its stability, for the quality of the packaging system you use, for being documented, for running on old hardware, for doing smooth upgrades, and a lot of technical features which are not really the topic of this talk of mine. But another interesting technical feature is one of the operating system with the largest number of packaged software available. So in the free software world, the word operating system is used to mean not only the kernel, like in the proprietary software world, but it's used to mean all the application, all this set of packages you can run on your system. And in Debian Squeeze, we have something like 30,000 different software packages you can install on your Debian system. But then the second aspect, which is particularly interesting of Debian, is the project. So the project is, in a sense, an association of people which meet together because they share a common goal. And the goal is to create the best free operating system. Of course, best and free goes together because you should be completely free, and among all the completely free systems, you should be the best. So, and what are the defining lines of the Debian project? There are essentially two documents. One document, which we call the Debian Social Contract, which is a kind of a contract signed between the Debian developers, so the people who make Debian, and the free software community as a whole. So all the people who are invested in the software are one of the peers of this contract, which is described in the Debian Social Contract. And then there is a constitution, which is a kind of governance rules, which say how the Debian project is run and who can do what, essentially. And all these kind of philosophical aspects have been very useful in gathering together a lot of people. So today, Debian is made by 1,000 volunteers, 1,000 developers in particular, which are spread all over the world. So there is well, I guess you can't see much, but essentially the map shows that there are Debian developers in several countries around the world. Sorry. So the most part of Debian developers are in Europe. Then we have a significant amount of Debian developers in the United States. Then we have important groups in Japan, in Australia, and a growing community in South America. In this particular slide, there are no Debian developers shown in Taiwan. I have no idea, probably because the Debian developers who live there haven't entered their coordinates on this map. But I know that there are quite a few Debian developers in Taiwan as well. So the third aspect of Debian is the community. So the characteristic of the Debian community, first of all, is that being open. So everything which happens in Debian is open and known to the wide public. So we have in our social contract the point of not hiding problems. And if you are capable of doing technical work, it's very easy in the Debian community to have an impact on the actual operating system. So there are no barriers like related to getting money or this kind of stuff. It's very easy to have an impact as long as you are ready to actually do the needed technical work. There is a large amount of communication in the Debian community. We mainly use mailing lists and IRC to communicate among developers. And we are growing the usage of web services, but I think that thus far it's been not that used essentially because most of them were non-free. And the people who make Debian really care about free software, whether it is web-based or not. So right now we are starting to have alternatives to proprietary web social network, for instance. So we are starting to use stuff like Identica, for instance, to communicate with our users. And then we have the users of Debian are generally tech-savvy people with quite some technical knowledge. So it's very common, for instance, when we receive bug reports from Debian users, that the bug reports are associated to patches straight away. So this is a characteristic of the Debian community. So let's look at it in perspective at Debian. So in 1993, there weren't many distributions. So there were like Debian, there were Red Hat, and then SUSE arrived shortly later. There weren't that many distributions. Today, the situation has changed completely. So if you look at the websites which make a review of the existing distribution, you will find hundreds and hundreds of distributions. So I looked the other day, and only among the active distribution for free software, there are like more than 300 active free software distributions. So, and they have a whole set of differences. For instance, they have differences in the kind of interface they offer, they have different in the kind of support they offer, they have differences in how often they release, they have different targets of users. So what is so special about Debian? Why one should care about Debian today and why one should use Debian today? So for me, there are 4 reasons which taken together make Debian quite unique. So the first of all is a focus on quality. So what do I mean with the focus on quality? I mean that the design process of packages is based around quality. So for instance, we have a defined document of our technical activity, which is called Debian policy, which is a sort of reference manual which says the shape of a specific package. So for instance, that manual says where images are installed, where data which change are installed as part of your package, giving the user a consistent environment where you can go and find what he needs from a given package. So this is the first aspect of Debian quality, the Debian policy manual. Then we do a lot of testing of packages, and we do that with several tools. For instance, we have a tool called the Lincoln and a tool called PUPATs, which are used to automatically test whether a package respects the policy or not. This is very useful because when we have 30,000 packages, the more we can automate in checking their quality, the better. So, and then we often do, for instance, archive rebuilds. So we believe that free software is not particularly useful if you cannot rebuild it yourself. So what is the advantage